The Honorable Seipep will come back. In the meantime, the floor is yours, Honorable Swartboy.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, sir. Uniquely wearing a mask from Ovitoto, we are proud of you. I commend the Honorable Lucia Ipumbu.
Yes.
Not her that she got married, but Ipumbu, that has brought this matter here. I just want to, Honorable Speaker, go to Article 5, I and M, which says, and I quote, to improve, which is the purpose of this protocol, to improve national participation, ownership, and utilization of factors of production. And M continues to say, support industrialization with a particular emphasis on enabling infrastructure development, transport, energy development, technology advancement, innovation, industrial research. End of quote. Honorable Speaker, I am struck by the inconsistency with which important bodies on the continent make protocols of this nature. If you rewind back a few years ago, AU entered into what I think is the Maputo Declaration that came up with the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, which made agricultural development as the centerpiece for Africa's economic and social development, and required member states to allocate 10% of their annual budget amounts to agriculture. That having been agreed to, which we think is a progressive suggestion and agreement by the AU, should have then been cascaded to a protocol within the SADC region, so that what is done at continental level is also continued consistently at sub-regional level. In this instance, the contradictions are that there is no mention of agriculture within the priorities of this protocol, as it should be in terms of its priorities. And in particular for Namibia, where the construction of a major dam that cost about 4 or 5 billion was meant to enhance agriculture, that does not reflect in a protocol of this nature. And I think the Honorable Minister would probably have a response as to why this is not the case, but I thought it was very obvious, either an omission or some sort of strategy. I would not know how it could be a strategy, but nonetheless an omission, that we do not take our agriculture as a sub-regional body seriously. What is also striking is that in this protocol, unless otherwise explained, a number of countries have not signed, and I see that the heads of state have actually signed. South Africa is missing, Seychelles is missing, Botswana is missing, Zambia is also not there. Perhaps if there could be an explanation why these countries have not signed, or whether perhaps there is an additional communication that they have given that they will join at a later stage, or perhaps some sort of objection that they may have, in particular in relation to which other item perhaps that they are not agreeable with in the context of the protocol, would be suffice for some of us to appreciate. But important, Honorable Speaker, that if South Africa does, for instance, not sign, it tells you an important story that perhaps South Africa itself does not support the industrialization of other countries within the region. Because when you speak about industrialization and you speak about value chain development and so on, you're actually speaking about possibly outcrowding some of the sectors in which South Africa has been dominant: agriculture, retail, energy. And here, particularly again in respect of energy, we are basically just saying support industrialization and energy development, but what are the tools with which we are going to achieve some of these things when Namibia imports significant degree of electricity from South Africa and pays a premium of over 25% to Eskom, hence they do not switch off our electricity supply in this country. So if South Africa is not party to this protocol, the other countries that are party to this protocol must actually begin to question the extent to which South Africa really is a partner for economic development, in particular for industrialization of the rest of the region. Is it a good neighbor? Is it a supportive superpower on the continent? Or should we, from Tanzania to Kenya to DRC to Zambia, constantly be exposed to, at many instances, repressive retail sectors, for instance, such as Shoprite, that have underpaid Namibian workers and other countries' workers, but have paid for the same work South African workers better? Should that be the strategy that we should continue? And what are the implications for these other countries to begin to say, for instance, countries like Botswana, Namibia, and other economies, to begin to say, let's look at developing our own retail brands and so on? No, it's a challenge, but it has got to start somewhere. Because even when they were speaking about the African Renaissance program, those that analyzed South Africa's position were very clear in stating that Renaissance of the Africans means for South Africa growing the South African economy first at the expense of other African countries, and precisely replicating the imperialist agenda that those that are strong must continue to exploit those countries that are weak, and if they can, keep those countries weak, under-industrialized, underdeveloped, and so on and so forth. You know, Honorable Speaker, when I was growing up in the southern part, there was these elders, of course me being one of the young elders, unlike Natango, they would be telling us that we did not know maize meal. We knew koring.
Yeah.
Koring.
Yeah.
Wheat. And that people would actually plant a lot of the things that they needed. Then came colonialism with retail shops that now started to say, Basha V, you here in this area of the country, you don't have water. Your water is meant for your goats, and limit also that, so that people stopped planting and started to create, therefore, by those decisions, a market for the retail shops. Today we are saying only this community is planting and others are not planting, but there were policy interventions that literally decapitated others from engaging in what they historically knew was good for them. How are protocols of this sort? And I know this is just but one instrument, Honorable Minister. This is just but one instrument. There are much more fundamental issues that you will be dealing with. A protocol doesn't resolve it all, but how do instruments like this bring forth the agenda of countries like Namibia and Botswana, where we are sparsely populated with small markets, where agriculture is probably the mainstay of 60–70% of our communities, where we are not consumers of potatoes because of our economic level of development, and we are probably consumers of maize and mahangu. How are we dealing with those realities here? Because when I look at this document, which I'm told was developed over the course of 1 year, faster than any other document, I see a lot of beautiful English, commendable, high-level, beautiful English that for Ovitoto means nothing. That for Okalongo means zero, or Oshikuku, or Tes, or Sesfontein means very little. And so I'm just reminding my honorable sister that it's good and well that we accede to things of this sort. But as the Honorable Venani said, how do we then ensure, Honorable Speaker, very carefully, how do we ensure that ministers that come and table these types of protocols actually come back to report to this House the extent to which these protocols and further legislation that may have been developed out of it have been successfully implemented? Particularly, Honorable Speaker, sir, given what the Honorable Yvonne Donsap has been suggesting, for instance, that there is no direct legislation that enforces reporting mechanisms of the executive to the Parliament on issues of ministerial duties and responsibilities. How would the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, who, by the way, Honorable Speaker, in the budget that she is still managing, was given only 174 million Namibian dollars to do all of these things, or to be a facilitator of all of these things, how does that poor honorable minister end up reporting on success of these measures that she has tabled? And I wonder whether, in terms of the agreements that minister signed, whether tabling a protocol for accession by Parliament is ticked off as an important job that was done. I would have thought that's just administrative. It's not much. But how is it done? I move on, Honorable Speaker, and I'm finishing. That Article 8B, produce industrial inputs and intermediate products for further processing within the region, which deals, of course, with joint industrial enterprises. What is it that we are talking about here? What is it that we are talking about here when those products for further processing are most likely just going to end up at one point and not throughout the entire region? What is it that we are saying? The whole concept, I move on, the whole concept of industrialization within this region, Honorable Speaker, and perhaps continent-wide, is massively challenged, partly by our own doing, but by global aspects. China has even managed to de-industrialize countries like South Africa, as it has done with countries like the United States. Would, even at a conceptual level, and therefore escalated to a policy level, Honorable Speaker, would the use of industrialization as we know it even be the most appropriate political and economic strategy for development of countries in this region? I'm leaving that rhetorical question to all of us to perhaps ponder upon. Would we ever be able to industrialize where the mining sector is owned by Chinese? We have given the means of production to somebody else. When land is probably going also along those routes, where fish that is at least managed to some extent by our own people has landed 2 ministers in prison because of malicious mismanagement of that important resource. In other words, the tools that we may have at our own disposal, we have mismanaged. The tools that could help us to leapfrog into industrialization, we have given over to others. The tools that are still left with us, are we ready to manage them? That's why some of us are saying, in terms of the Kavango oil question, what is wrong if oil is being drilled in Kavango? Leonardo DiCaprio, who are movie stars there in Hollywood, certainly have opinions about Kavango, whom they have never visited, without saying what is it that they movie stars are going to do to help industrialization and development of our people in Kavango. So from that point that I raised conceptually, is industrialization still even the relevant terminology given our experiences? I would say this is a fine protocol with the reservations we have. I think we can go ahead to accede to it. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you.